Thank you, Madam Mayor, and greetings, councillors. I just wanted to, it's my pleasure to welcome the newly elected councillor for Whitley and Milford Ward, Councillor Laura Cavaliere. Welcome to Waverley and congratulations on your election.
And now it's my turn to speak, to welcome you members to this annual council meeting of Waverley Borough Council, and to welcome the members in the public gallery, and most particularly a warm welcome to Vicky Davis, who is the head of eco-education at Loseley Fields Primary School, and welcome to your young students who are going to tell us this evening of an award that they have been given, an international award for a science prize. So do welcome Vicky. Please tell us about the award.
Where should we set up? Where would you like?
If you speak from this microphone,
Oh, okay.
everybody else gets to go.
Oh, okay, sure. Thank you so much for welcoming us. I'm very excited to be here tonight. So we entered a competition as Loseley Fields Primary School at Imperial College, London. And we didn't realise it was an international competition until we won, so that was exciting. And we had to choose one of the United Nations Sustainability Goals, and we had to create a science project with innovation of how we might solve one of those global problems that we face as a world. So it was a very, very tall order. But our wonderful team of students, we've got Sophie, Anita, Mikey and Arthur, and we all worked together and came up with this idea, and the children would like to present it to you now. Will the microphone pick up the children in turn from where they are, do you think? Would that work? Okay, if you guys, so if we have to this side and to the other side, and need to open from this side as well. And then Mikey, if you move a bit closer. Speak into that. I might need to turn it off. Okay.
Which one do you want? Or we use yours?
Which would you rather use? This one? See how you go. Okay, that one's on. Okay, so over to them.
We live in a world where it feels like power belongs to others. We hear about climate change and the damage being done to a beautiful planet, about inequality and poverty, and we want to do something about it.
Rather than wait for oil companies to make the change to renewables, supermarkets to stock locally sourced food, rather than relying on water companies to provide huge amounts of water for our needs, we want to bring the power back to the people.
By using the resources free to us all, we want to create a community self-sufficiency that can be replicated around the world, empowering people to be the change they want to see.
Welcome to our Power to the People project, addressing United Nations Sustainability Goal number 11, make cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient and sustainable. We want to build a community-funded and managed Power to the People hub in each local area with
water conservation tanks to meet grey water needs,
a solar power station,
Use communal grass space for fruit trees, bushes with all companion crops such as herb gardens beneath.
manage our own carbon accounts locally by measuring carbon storage in trees and making sure the numbers balance with our carbon use.
We have been monitoring our rainwater collection to help with our grey water use. From our roof, there is 20 meters square. We collected an average of 30 liters of water daily, so 1 meter square produces 1.5 liters of water. We measured the amount of grey water each student would need to use as 12 liters a day. By monitoring toilet flushes and hand washes, We need to collect 4,476 litres of rainwater for all the 373 children. A roof area of 2,984 metres squared is needed, which is very similar to our total school roof capacity of 2,738 metres squared. This would reduce dependency on water companies, reduce energy use to move water, and make people more aware of the precious resource of water in our lives.
Each community hub would have a community-funded solar power station. We have measured our building roof capacity for south-facing solar panels. We have 2,738 metres squared roof capacity, and with 2 metres squared panels, we can fit 1,369 panels, each producing 400 watts. So a total of 547.5 kilowatts output potential. Our school usage is currently 376 kilowatts daily, so we could provide 100% of our electricity and give some away to people locally who cannot afford it.
Imagine if we community funded fruit trees and bushes and all species for grassed areas, such as verges and roundabouts. We could all benefit from them rather than getting fruit from shops that has been shipped or thrown around the world. We would develop companion crops to increase the productivity of the land. This food would be free to all people in the community and help address the problem of food poverty.
Carbon accounting. We want to manage how much carbon we are using at the local level and offset that with trees in our community. We chose 4 different sized trees on our ground and categorised all the trees into 1 of the groups based on size. To calculate the carbon, we measured the circumference of the tree, estimated the height, then we used a carbon calculator to work out the carbon storage in the tree. We have 72 tons of carbon stored in our trees. There are currently 373 pupils in our school, each using an average 4.7 tons of carbon each year. So our current tree carbon storage is only enough for 15 people per year. We need to plant more trees to account for all the children at our school.
If we harness the power of sun, rain, plant growth, and carbon capture in the trees, which is food absorbed,
We could truly transform our community, bringing power back to the people at the local level.
This science project has demonstrated our need to reduce the use of resources.
It's also shown the incredible potential of our natural resources, create a sustainable way of living and a level playing field for everyone.
On behalf of everybody here, what a fantastic presentation. Vicky, thank you very much for bringing these children, and thank you to Sophia, Anita, Mikey and Arthur. Thank you very much for giving up your time to come and speak to us oldie people here. You are the young citizens of this borough and of this town. You've just started out on your mission, okay? So thank you very much for coming here this evening. And you're very welcome to stay for the whole meeting, but you've already heard that it can feel like the meeting can go on for 4 days. It's never yet gone on for 4 days, but sometimes it can feel like that. So you probably have homework or something better to do. But thank you very, very much for being here this evening. Thank you, Vicky. So now we come back to our agenda, and agenda item number 1 this evening is the election of a new mayor. So may I call for nominations for the election of mayor for the year 2024 to 25. Councillor Munro, thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I'm pleased and honoured to nominate Councillor John Ward for the position of mayor for the next mayoral year.
And is there a seconder?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'm pleased to second.
Thank you, councillor Gale. Are there any other nominations? Councillor Clark.
Excuse me, I put my hand up too early. I was just going to speak to John Ward, but I'll wait for you to introduce that.
Sorry, so if there are no other speakers, councillor Munro, did you want to speak to your proposal?
Yes, please, Madam Mayor. If that's okay. I hope everybody can hear me. Was when I got to this chamber 5 minutes ago, I was told that I was being moved, and I'm the farthest councillor possible away from where you are sitting. And next meeting, I guess they will move me to the car park, and I can speak from there. I was really honoured to be asked to nominate John Ward, and we go back to a long way. But I thought I'd needed some help in doing this nomination speech, so I went on to Chat AI for that, and I said, "Can you give me 3,000 words? Won't last long. Help," and so I can read it out, and I'll just read you out what it suggested. I said. And it said, "Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues, it is with great honour that I stand before you today in full support of the nomination of Mayor Ward. Mayor Ward has demonstrated unwavering dedication to our community, spearheading initiatives that have uplifted our borough and its residents. Under their leadership, we have witnessed remarkable progress in areas, etc., and I'm afraid I rather lost interest after that. So I will be using my own words now, but I will return to AI later. John, we first got together, I've been looking it up, in the 2007 borough elections, when you and I both stood for Shortheath and Boundstone Ward in Farnham. And I remember thinking, gosh, there's a very shrewd person indeed, because you managed to get me campaigning about 2/3 of the ward, while you picked the rich folks up the hill, only 1/3 of the ward. And I thought that was very clever of you indeed. We were very fortunate to win through. We were on the same side then, and we're sort of more or less on the same side now. But there have been times where we haven't been, but I'm glad to say that our friendship doesn't seem to be too much impaired by that. You fought 6 elections, 5 in that ward, and of course the 6 in Rowledge Ward, your current ward, and your record is 5-1. I think. Well, it's always good to lose an election, just once in a while, not too often, so you know how it feels. It's very good, very good experience there. But I'm so delighted that after a temporary lapse in the last 3 elections, you're actually now back in the borough where you belong, and it's I'm delighted. You obviously didn't do too well in your first year as mayor, so they asked you to do it a second time. So we're expecting really great things from somebody who's so experienced. What are we getting? I think from my experience and campaigning with you and trying to sort out local issues together. We're going to get 150% enthusiasm. That's absolutely as read, because you've proved that in your ward work and indeed at Farnham Town Council, where you have helped countless people with their problems and rightly are very well respected and indeed loved there. Your work ethic is astonishing and puts most of us to shame. And I'm sure that will continue here in the council chamber. But that all sounds a bit forbidding. What I haven't mentioned is your innate kindness and sympathy, especially for people who you think are hard done by. And you're basically, John, you're a very nice person. And I couldn't say that, I think, of everybody here. But if they follow, if they follow your example, they'll be all the better for it. And of course, if you become mayor, the real bonus is that Gillian becomes mayoress, and we're going to get 2 for the price of 1. And I've known Gillian, of course, for equally long, and have really impressed. By the way, not only that you carry out your own duties as mayoress equally with John, but you have also involved yourself in an enormous amount of local community work, just as John. So we're going to get a partnership here for the next year, and it's going to be a partnership for the good of the borough. And I wish you the very best of luck. I thought I'd go back to AI because I was so bored with the first speech. So I said, give me a 100-word speech in the style of a 15-year-old to nominate a mayor, because I know you and I, John, are both very young at heart, so this is more our language. Hey, everyone. So, imagine how crazy it would be if our mayor was someone who truly heard us, like for real. I'm talking about someone who gets us, our struggles, our dreams, you know. This person needs to care about our schools, our parks, the stuff that matters to us, not just the fancy stuff. And they got to be ready to make real changes to make our borough better for everyone. So I'm super pumped to nominate John Ward, because you're all about listening to us and making our voices count. Let's do this, guys.
Thank you, Councillor Munro. Councillor Gale, would you like to add some words to your seconding?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't think I can match that. But actually, John did ask me to say a couple of things to describe him, suave and debonair. So I've done that, John, okay. But really and truly, when you try to describe John, I've seen there's a new term used on CVs and people say they are multifaceted. Now, this means that they can do lots of things very, very well and they have great talent. So maybe that is how we describe John. He has had an incredible career with business, taking him to many parts of the globe, and then more recently in retirement to more exotic locations with Gillian on the cruises, obviously. I understand he plays a decent round of golf. He's a qualified scuba diver. That could come in handy if it get more floods. And he has been the leader of Farnham Town Council. He's also been the mayor of Farnham at least twice. He's been the leader of Waverley Borough Council. And if all goes according to plan tonight, he will have been mayor of Waverley twice too. I know during his last term as mayor of Waverley, John's approach was visit as many events during the year as he could get squeezed in. Invite me, I'll turn up, being his catchphrase. I think I'm correct in saying, John, the number reached almost 400 in 22-23. These appearances were not just to turn up and cut a ribbon or hand out a certificate and leave. When John was present as mayor, he made an impression. I witnessed this, the impact that he had. During one of his visits, he was at the Milford Fete. A small boy with mother in tow ran over saying, "Mummy, Mummy, it's the mayor. He came to our school." The mother apologised for interrupting, but she said, "Since you came to the school, they've been so excited. They couldn't stop talking about your visit. It was such an exciting day for them." Now, bearing in mind, John had been to many, many different places and how packed his diary was, when he said to the small lad, "Yes, I remember you were doing cooking," the little boy almost exploded with delight because, yes, they had been doing cooking when he was there. So these moments are the reason that it gives me the greatest pleasure to second the nomination of John Ward to take up the role of mayor for 24-25 because I've witnessed the positive impact that he has on people, and he will be a great asset to us at the borough. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gale. I'll just check again. Are there any other nominations before I look to Councillor Clark? Are there any other nominations? No. Councillor Clark, you wish to speak?
Thank you. John, I hope you'll remember how eager I was to say kind words. It was March of last year, and it was the last council meeting before the local elections. And I made the following statement here in the council chamber, and I quote, "This evening, I've made a special effort following a recent back surgery to attend council, as it may be the last time I see many of you," and it was. But more importantly, it's also the last opportunity for me to say thank you to Mr. Mayor, to Councillor John Ward. So before paying any tribute, I must apologise to members for inadvertently raising their hopes. Mr. Mayor, as he's now known to his friends and family, is clearly a serial offender, having also been the mayor twice at Farnham. But I appreciate there may be mitigating circumstances which I understand are quite delicate because they are of a medical nature. John could be suffering from a rare disorder which is called dissociative identity disorder. Those who suffer from this complaint have 2 or more separate personalities that control their behaviour at different times. For example, I am reliably informed that Gillian insists that Mr. Mayor removes the gold chain before dinner. But then Mr. Ward is allowed to wear his white gloves when he retires to the library for brandy and cigars. But members, is this a serious condition? Should we be concerned? Not a bit of it. Mr. Ward and Mr. Mayor are both as fine examples of gentlemen that you could ever wish to meet. And there is much to commend in both of their personalities. And of course, there is the unintended benefit of, in some respects, the fact that we're getting 2 for the price of 1. Finally, John has recently joined the Octogenarian Club. And as one of our most senior members now, we can see that his energy and commitment has been an example to members half his age, like me. Mr. Ward and Mr. Mayor, may I commend you both. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Very good for such a young councillor. Good speech. Are there any other speeches here this evening? No other speakers. So we will do the vote for the new mayor by verbal assent. So please turn on your microphones and so signify. Agree or disagree? Agree.
Agreed.
So I hereby declare that because of all those agreements, Councillor John Ward is the new Mayor of Waverley for the year 2024 to 2025. You can now clap.
Please rise whilst the Mayor leaves the chamber. There will now be a short break whilst the Mayor robes. Councillors and guests, please rise to receive the new Mayor of Waverley, Councillor John Ward.
Thank you. Please be seated. Yeah. I will stand to read it. I, John Ward, having been elected to the office of Mayor of the Borough of Waverley, hereby declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. I undertake to observe the code as to the conduct which is expected of members of Waverley Borough Council in the performance of my functions in that office, which I shall sign and date the 21st of May, 2024. Now I get to say a few words to try and counteract the earlier speeches. Well, As was remarked earlier, I'm back. Bad luck. Thank you all for electing me to this office, which is an honour, and it actually is something I really enjoy doing. I'm especially pleased that the reigning brains of Waverley in the corner, those who won the past Mayor's Charity Quiz, agreed to propose and second me for this wonderful office. It perhaps shows that very intelligent people sometimes are short on a little common sense, but thank you. It really is a privilege to represent this very widespread and very diverse borough. It really has a mixture of everything in it. I know when it was created, there was a lot of wonder whether it was going to be an urban borough or a rural borough. But anyway, here we are. But we have numerous towns and villages. The towns obviously have their own mayors, and I shall cooperate with them, try not to tread on their toes. And we have numerous villages that lack a chain-wearing representative, whatever that is. But I shall do my best on all your behalfs to represent Waverley energetically, both within and without the borough. When I was previously elected as mayor, the leader who proposed me quipped, and I trust it was slightly tongue-in-cheek, that the age of tyranny was about to start. Well, it can't have been that tyrannical because you've asked me back for more. But I thought I would do something a little different this time. So I've come along with my begging bowl, of which more later. I was slightly apprehensive of the earlier speeches, but I do thank the more mischievous among you for not remarking on Waverley's ability to increase its already wonderful recycling scheme by recycling its mayors. I'm especially touched as this is the 50th anniversary year of Waverley, 50 years old this year. And, let me get this right, yes, in 260 hours, it will be my golden wedding. And the mayoress will have put up with me for 49 years longer than you lot have to. So think yourselves lucky. At least we chose the 1st of June, rather than, as the government did, rearranging the boroughs of England to start on April Fool's Day. To return to the begging bowl, every mayor asks for support for their charities, and I shall mention them in my announcements later. Conduct in this chamber is usually really good, which is a fantastic contrast to what happens in the mother of government, our parliament. And I suppose my begging bowl for this year is, let's be really kind to each other. We all have our firm beliefs, and sometimes they're very different, and we all debate quite sternly. But let us try and do it occasionally without a scowl on our face, although the fixed smile is perhaps not quite the right thing. And let us try and avoid insults and rhetoric to each other. I do realise that this is an election year and this will be extremely difficult for all of us, but please try and let's do our electioneering outside this chamber. I look forward to moderating debate in what is likely to be an eventful anniversary year, and I thank you again for agreeing to put up with me. Right, the next item on the agenda is item 2, appointment of the deputy mayor. Do I have a proposal? Councillor Keel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And may I offer my congratulations to you on your election as Mayor of Waverley and wish you every success in the role. It is my honour to propose my colleague, Councillor Penny Rivers, to be appointed to the role of Deputy Mayor. There are perhaps only a few who will be able to take on this role, having had such
Could I just stop you quickly and make sure you have a seconder?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I would like to second. Thank you.
Mr. Hello is seconding.
Thank you. That wasn't on my script. Apologies. There are perhaps only a few who will be able to take on this role, having had such direct and immediate experience of the office of mayor, and we are all the richer for Penny's knowledge and the experience she will bring to the role of deputy mayor. Councillor Penny Rivers is an incredibly supportive and encouraging person who helps to shine the spotlight on worthy causes and those within our borough who need help the most, and as we have seen this evening, those whose achievements should be celebrated and honoured. There are others better placed to speak to her most successful year as mayor, which we will hear later in the agenda. As a personal reflection, being a relatively new councillor myself, I would just like to say that I am grateful for her support and have valued having her progressive voice representing our council. Penny embodies many positive values which resonate across our community in an area she very much loves and is an integral part of. Therefore, I have no hesitation in proposing Councillor Penny Rivers as the role of Deputy Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dewes, would you like to say a few words as seconder?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'm very happy to second the nomination for Councillor Penny Rivers as Deputy Mayor of Waverley. There are few who are as devoted to serving the local community as Penny. In the past civic year as Mayor of Godalming, I've been privileged to stand alongside her as Mayor of Waverley and her consort, Councillor Paul Rivers, newly elected Mayor of Godalming. She has shown an unwavering commitment to the duty of mayoralty with an extensive knowledge of the people and places that make the borough what it is. I feel particularly proud of how Penny raises the profile of equality, diversity and inclusion. Every year during Black History and LGBT+ History Months, she posts daily the varied role models that have helped to break down inequality in their respective fields. She is proud of her own Jamaican roots and flies the flag of liberation for Waverley. Indeed, she was justly recognised for being such an amazing ambassador through the Pride in Surrey Awards earlier this year, where she won LGBTQ+ Ally. Penny always thinks of new ways in which to celebrate and recognise the achievements of others, and so is ideally placed to continue her civic responsibilities for this borough. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Are there any other nominations? Healthy silence, that's called. Do any other councillors wish to speak? In that case, I declare that Councillor Penny Rivers is duly elected as the Deputy Mayor of Waverley for this council year. I will now invest the Deputy Mayor, the Deputy Mayor's consort, and my charming Mayoress in front of the dais. Do you first?
Well, yeah, switch our way around. That's okay.
There we go.
Thank you.
This is the last time I think I will put a chain around you. So let's both enjoy it. Do you want me to sneak behind you and do it up, or shall I do it up and then put it over your head? There we go. And I am to give you past Mayor's badge and a gift. Shall I leave it there?
That would be lovely.
Yes?
Yes, thank you.
Right. Okay, thank you very much. And not so much trouble with your hair, will there be there?
Let me bow.
Of course. Yeah, okay. And I gather that this is for you to share with me later. The Deputy Mayor will now make her declaration of office.
I, Penny Rivers, having been elected to the office of Deputy Mayor of the Borough of Waverley, hereby declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. I undertake to observe the code as to the conduct which is expected of members of the Waverley Borough Council in the performance of my functions in that office.
Would you like to say a few words?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. It has been an amazing honour to represent this council to the people of the borough. And we do live in a wonderful place, towns and countryside together, and diverse people. It has been an honour. Thank you.
Right, moving on to the business side of the meeting. Are there any apologies for absence?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, apologies have been received this evening from councillors Busby, Crowe, Goodridge, Palmer and Liz Townsend.
Thank you very much. Are there any declarations of interest prior to the meeting?
There were none.
Any declarations at the meeting, councillors? Then we will move on to announcements. Mine will be short, which I trust will be an example for the rest of the year as we move forward. First of all, a couple of welcomes. Let me formally welcome Councillor Austin as leader of the opposition. It's a hard and difficult job. I know because I've done it, but I'm sure that you will fulfill it with alacrity, humour and skill. But you have my sympathy. I know it's going to be tough. Can I also welcome Councillor George Murray, who has taken over from me as leader of the Farnham Residents Party and group leader of the Farnham residents at Farnham. You two will doubtless chat to each other quite often. He has the second best job in the council because mine is still the best. I was going to say I've been busy since I've been elected, but that would be a bit cheeky. I like to spread my charities across the age groups. So this year I am going to be supporting Farnham Assist, which is looking after the more elderly ladies and gentlemen. This is laying down good works for when I leave this chair and they can look after me. And Post 19, which helps some of our younger ones. I didn't really know until I spoke to them, but it seems obvious when you think about it that when you leave school, you kind of fall off a cliff. And if you have any disabilities, you fall off an even bigger cliff. And Post 19 is trying to look after that sort of post-school age group up till about the age of 25. So it's a little known charity and I really want to support them. So begging bowl again. My civic service will be on June the 23rd. It will be in St Thomas on the Bourne in Farnham. And I really would appreciate as many people as possible coming to it. Over the last few years, less and less councillors have come to civic services. And apart from supporting the mayor, I do recommend it to you as a way of letting the public see that they have a lot of councillors who are keen on representing them. And again, thank you for putting me in this chair. I now believe the head of paid services would like to say a few words.
Sorry, none from me, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Chief Finance Officer, do you wish to say anything?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Sorry.
And very happy to be working with you and the other councillors in this forthcoming year.
And monitoring officer.
No announcements from me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I love this brevity. Please take note of this, ladies and gentlemen, for the rest of the year. Right, item 7 is a vote of thanks to the retiring mayor, and I gather this is going to be introduced by the leader, Councillor Follows.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And before I move on to the person who is actually doing the vote of thanks, may I congratulate you on your elevation to your second term. I also nation to correct your characterisation of my words. I believe I described them as the incoming minor tyranny. I expect this time the major tyranny will occur. I've certainly asked Councillor Williams to find his invisibility cloak again for another year. But other than that, I will now hand over to Helen Jackson of the Meath to introduce the vote of thanks to Councillor Penny Rivers as outgoing mayor.
Thank you. Well, it gives me great pleasure to share thanks to Penny for her hard work and dedication to the people across the borough of Waverley during her mayoral year. I'd like to give insight to her support of the Meath over the past year. But first, Skillway, her other nominated charity, and some other groups from our community would also like to share their appreciation of her wonderful support. So firstly, Laura Matthews at Skillway has commented, "Here at Skillway, we'd like to express our gratitude to Councillor Penny Rivers for her passionate support during her year as Mayor of Waverley. The financial support has enabled us to continue our work with our young people and provide them with opportunities that they would have not been able to previously access. We have also appreciated her presence at various events and being there to unveil the wooden bench made here at Skillway, which now resides at Eashing Cemetery. We wish her all the best and look forward to further opportunities in the future." Meanwhile, Lizzie Matthews, head teacher at Broadwater School, shares, "Penny has been an incredible support to Broadwater, not just this year, but every year. Her generosity, not only of her time, but her kind thoughts, words of wisdom, have been second to none. From opening our community gardens, celebrating our Surrey Festival of Musical Theatre, and imparting words of wisdom to our outgoing Year 11s at GCSE Celebration Evening. Students and staff alike have been honoured to have Penny's support. Thank you from every member of the Broadwater community." Phoebe Gaydon, founder of Choir Blast and the many local jazz choirs which bring so much joy to so many members of our community, has also shared her thanks. "I want to extend my deepest thanks to Councillor Penny Rivers, the most fabulous Mayor of Waverley and current Mayor of Godalming, Paul Rivers. You guys are truly a power couple. And yet you do everything while being so humble and grateful and are truly kind. Your moral support has been a beacon of positivity throughout our journey, from attending events to championing our cause to spread the word about Choir Blast's mission. You have been nothing short of amazing. Your presence and uplifting words have inspired our performers and audience alike, adding an extra layer of magic to our festival. The uplifting effects of Penny's support is clearly something that is felt across the borough and wider community, and this has been felt among staff, volunteers and residents at the Meath. Penny has been a tremendous support to the Meath during her mayoral year. We are privileged to have a true friend and supporter in Penny in any year. But over the past months, Penny has gladly taken the opportunity to champion the work of the Meath and the vulnerable adults who live there. She has done this in her own unique way. She approaches all support by first and foremost using two core skills. She listens and she cares. Penny listens to what matters to people, and I believe genuinely cares deeply about improving the lives of those that she serves in her community. Lee Bennett, CEO at the Meath Epilepsy Charity, has commented, We are extremely grateful to Penny for her wonderful support during her mayoral year. Her hard work fundraising is a huge and much appreciated help to us as we continue to fundraise in order to cover the shortfall in statutory funding while providing the breadth and quality of services that the vulnerable adults we support require for the fulfilled lives that they enjoy and deserve. In addition to her support through the raising of vital funds, Penny has championed the Meath and raised our profile, be it through the sharing of our social media posts, putting our fantastic Meath choir centre stage at her gala concert, to hosting her own private viewing of a Meath exhibition for councillors at Godalming Museum. On behalf of all at the Meath, thank you, Penny, for using your mayoral year to support us. We are truly grateful. Penny's warmth, friendship and desire to genuinely make a positive difference to those that she serves in her community doesn't exclusively support the beneficiaries of a charity, the organiser of a community event, or the pupils at a school. She also supports those that keep the charity going, the caregivers, the educators, and the many people who participate and enjoy a community event. Her support radiates outwards, fortifying and galvanising, and has done so across the borough. This, I believe, is a wonderful example to us all, and a wonderful example of the role of the Mayor of Waverley. So the final quote I have to share is actually more of a testament to Penny's character, the woman beneath the chains, than her mayoral performance per se. It comes from Peter, her friend and resident at the Meath Epilepsy Charity, who says, "I am grateful and so happy to call Penny my friend, and I would like to thank her for everything that she has helped us with at the Meath. I am also very happy whenever she visits, and hoping that if she now has some more free time, we will get to spend some more time together. So Penny, thank you for lifting us up, giving us hope, and through your example, for encouraging us to work together to be the very best that we can be. And if you do find yourself with some time on your hands once your chains of office are passed on, please remember that Peter and all of us at the Meath would be only too happy to pass the time with you. Thank you."
Before I call on Councillor Rivers to reply, does anyone else wish to speak? The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Helen. Thank you very much indeed for those kind words from you and from others. I'm known in my family to be a great crier. And throughout that, I was pushing my thumb into my hand to say, don't cry. Helen, many people hear good words, or they don't hear the good words that people think about them. At their funerals is when people speak words of respect and thanks. What a privilege it is to hear such words in the living years. Helen, thank you very much indeed.
We now move on to item 8 on your agenda.
Mr. Mayor, a point of order, if I may. You've forgotten item 5, which is the minutes.
My sincere apologies, Councillor Martin. Apparently the minutes have laid before you for some time and there are no scribbles on them. So can I take it that they are acceptable and that I may sign them on your behalf? Thank you very much. Now, cracking on to item 8, establishment of committees for 2024-25. The report in front of you sets out recommendations that we re-establish or effectively continue the committees that we brought into being a year ago at this last mayor-making meeting. They are listed in paragraph 4.7 of your agenda, and I shall move from the chair that we accept them. Do I have a seconder?
Pleased to second, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. I think there is little to say. We are continuing the good work that we did before, but does anyone wish to speak to this item? Thank you very much. Therefore, could I have a show of hands to approve those committees, please? Thank you very much. If no one raises their hand in dissent, I will take that as unanimous. Thank you very much, councillors. We now come to item 9, appointments to committees 24-25. The report sets out the political proportionality of the council in Appendix 1. This is a pure mathematical calculation made by officers and basically is in proportion to the number of members of the various political groups that we have. This is ordained upon us by government, and so there is very little that we can do about it. Appendix 2 was circulated as a supplement and has also been tabled, shows the group leaders' nominations for appointments to committee. That's the way we do it at Waverley. Our group leaders put forward the various people in their groups that they would like to fulfill those particular vacancies. And it also puts forward group leaders and committee chairs for the various groups. I intend to put this forward from the chair, but I hope I have a seconder.
Indeed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Please second.
Thank you, Leader. Does anyone wish to speak to this matter? In that case, may I have your assent that we will move forward in that respect? Thank you, councillors. I should do it the other way around, saying those that disagree, and then it would be much easier to count the hands. But since there aren't any, we will take that as unanimous. Thank you. Let us move forward then to item 10, which is to adopt the council's constitution and agree the scheme of delegation to officers and other than those that are relating to executive functions. The council procedure rules demand that we agree our constitution at this meeting. Therefore, can I take it that we will agree? Councillors, agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Item 11 is joint legal and democratic services structure, and I would invite Councillor Keel to speak to this on behalf of the executive.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I will be moving the recommendation, which is on your order paper, and I believe I have a seconder.
Please to second, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Some of us in this room will recall the executive considered this paper at its meeting on the 7th of May and approved a number of recommendations relating to the proposals for the new joint legal and democratic services structure. There was a recommendation to bring the paper to council, and that recommendation is in your papers. I'm delighted to bring forward an eminently sensible and collaborative proposal to provide a joint service for some of our fundamental services, our legal and democratic functions between Waverley and Guildford Borough Councils. As I'm sure we would all acknowledge, the legal and democratic functions are crucial to the smooth running and legal compliance of our council. They ensure we make decisions in a timely way with sound legal advice. The teams have been identified as needing further resource to do this, and we need to give them the funding to do the job. The Council's Joint Corporate Management Board has reviewed the resources available in the legal and democratic services functions and have found that they have not been sufficient for us to discharge our duties effectively. Changes to the senior staff structure have been made by our incoming Chief Executive, which has strengthened the senior team by having the monitoring officer and Section 151 officers reporting to the CEO directly in new strategic director posts. This has created a gap at the executive head of service level, which needs to be filled. Growth in the teams needs to happen to ensure good governance and compliance with the Council's statutory duties relating to best value. By creating a robust and sustainable framework within our legal and democratic services functions, we will become less dependent on expensive outsourced provision. We very much hope that this will also help with career development and succession planning for our staff. We want to attract and retain the best staff and to encourage them to stay and develop their careers here. Setting the proposals today against the backdrop of local authority failures in other parts of the country where poor governance has often played a significant role, I feel we must take this opportunity to properly address this issue and ensure we are on the firmest footing possible as a council, delivering the best value for our residents. I would like to take this opportunity to commend our Joint Strategic Director of Legal and Democratic Services for the leadership she has demonstrated on these issues to ensure we are able to address risk and compliance, for the thorough review of the legal and democratic functions that she has undertaken, and for the considered report that she has prepared and is before you today. I will ask you all to please support these proposals. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Foz, do you wish to speak now or do you wish to hold your fire in case anyone else speaks?
I shall reserve the right, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Councillor Austin.
Thank you. Firstly, may I offer my congratulations to you, our new mayor, and wish you every success for the forthcoming year. The Solace report at Guildford Borough Council has made it very clear that ongoing failures in governance have led to the issues Guildford is facing, and it also raises very serious concerns about Waverley too. So it is good to see that this report discusses failures of governance at both councils and suggests improvement in reference to best value. It may be that signing off on these costs is the right course of action to attempt to deal with issues across the merged council functions and the pickle we have been pulled into. But I query if this is the right thing for Waverley. Waverley is, because of the merged structure now in place, having to shore up and support a struggling council. And this request for more money is a further symptom of the failure of this merger by stealth. You will all recall that only last December, Council passed very substantial cost increases between 56 to 66% for a restructure of the legal services team. And yet here we are being asked to sign off another 220,000, not foreseen last December. Mr. Mayor, if we were operating as a standalone council, would we have been contemplating such huge increases last December and now in May? The answer is surely no. This request for additional legal and governance provision is yet more evidence of the many indirect costs resulting from the merging of our two councils, and it is further evidence of the failures of the Lib Dem-led administrations at both councils, who have each been in power or power sharing for over 5 years now. These indirect costs include staff departures. Because of the merged structure, both councils have lost executive heads, officers, had to recruit entire teams. In some cases, 2 or 3 times over. Payouts, recruitment costs, departments, majority staffed by expensive agency staff. 3.6 in this agenda says it all. We must reduce dependency on expensive external resources. Because when we look at and analyse Waverley's accounts, it shows us the elephant in the room, the enormous increases in staffing agency costs since the start of this merger. In 2020 to 21, it was just over £1 million. Last year, it was closer to 3.6 million. So let's view this agenda item in the context of the merger costs. The joint management team's budget, which was exempt, has just been made public. So I'm finally able to share that a total saving for the 3 years between 2021 to 24 of the collaboration was only £188,000. So if we offset only one of the above indirect costs, agency staff costs, we are looking at losses to the tune of millions. The reality of this merger is substantially less rosy than the Liberal Democrat leader of this council has been alluding to date. This request for additional costs is a symptom of the progressing merger by stealth, which is a huge and ongoing financial fail to the tune of millions. I therefore cannot support us going deeper and deeper into this mess, so I will be voting against it. Thank you.
Councillor Follows.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Congratulations, Councillor Austin, on becoming Leader of the Opposition. I'm going to listen to Mr. Mayor's introductory remarks to be kind and civil. I am aware of your employment as a communications personnel to our MP. And I would advise in that position that full reading of certain papers, such as the Solace report, is probably a good idea in that position. That paper at no point mentions failings at Waverley Borough Council. It actually spoke to no members of this council in the production of its reports. And is wholly relating to the workings of Guildford Borough Council. That Solace report also talks about failings over more than 10 years at Guildford. And when you look at it over that length of time, those failings, yes, may not have been closed by the current administration, although they have started to be now with gusto, but were very clearly left open at the beginning by past administrations. There is no way anybody at Guildford Borough Council in the history of Guildford Borough Council over the last 20 years can decide that they are not part of the current story at Guildford Borough Council. It would also, I suggest, in your current profession, but also in your role here, behoove you to look at the structure and finance of local government and consider why Waverley Borough Council is in the position that it is and needing to work with other councils at all. Local government funding has been systematically cut over the past 15 years. We again this year have 1 year's worth of funding allocated to us. We again this year communicate with the Chancellor of the Exchequer, the MP for South West Surrey, about how he intends to fund local government over the long term. And again, we get 1 year at a time. Nobody can plan 1 year at a time. And actually, I had the pleasure of speaking to one of our guests this evening, Helen Jackson, about funding at the Meath. And it's strange, they said exactly the same thing to the Chancellor as well. It's difficult to plan when you can only think 1 year at a time. So once again, we see a leader of the opposition come to this place and critique those looking to deal with issues, come with nothing. I do believe that the figures that you're quoting there, I don't believe they're accurate, but I'm going to take that one offline and have a look. I do think you might be conflating revenue and capital, and I do think you might be conflating structural costs for things like redundancies into your figures, but I will double check that before further commenting on it. I do think, though, that in terms of going back to this particular item, when you're looking at councils working together, and councils are working together, by the way, across the country. I mean, this is not unique. We're not reinventing the wheel here. There are plenty of Conservative authorities that have not just collaborated in the way we are, but have outright merged or sought to merge. And actually, had you been at Surrey County Council this morning, I wonder whether you'd have made the same remarks that you've just done about staff shortages and vacancies and interims to the leader of the County Council, who oddly is sounding probably a lot like me right now. So it's interesting, really, that your remarks end up being pretty political rather than honestly looking at the situation in local government right now. So, but let's just go back to the actual papers. Legal and democratic functions are something that are shared across the two councils. I think if I went out to an ordinary member of the public and said, do you think we should have, let's just say, let's go out from this paper, do you think we should have 2 HR directors? If a business said, do you have 2 HR directors? We should only have 1. I think they'd be reasonable about that. Top management sharing and resource sharing is not something that is unpalatable or unexplainable. And it is certainly not sui generis here at Guildford and Waverley. It's absolutely ridiculous to assume otherwise. So I again also thank the Strategic Director for Legal and Democratic Services, our monitoring officer, for her leadership on this paper. It does bring together some services that have required, I think, bringing together for some time. And once again, I ask the opposition to either come forward with solid proposals, get out their checkbook, or just stop. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other speakers? Councillor Martin.
Well, Mr. Mayor, thank you. And might I, of course, add my congratulations to you as you commence a further term of office as our mayor. It does seem extraordinary how few mayors we have over such a period of time. And the recycling is, as you say, quite impressive. Now, Mr. Mayor, while fully supporting our joint strategic director of Legal and Democratic Services, I do have significant concerns as to the wisdom of approving a substantial increase in expenditure in the Legal and Democratic Services team for this council. Indeed, that is the issue, for it is, I would submit, not an increase needed for the good running of this council. It is an increase for the good running of a joint department for both Guildford and Waverley. We seem to have a little
Excuse me
interference.
interrupting. We seem to have another meeting going on somewhere. Could we concentrate on the pearls of wisdom from Councillor Martin?
Well, Mr. Mayor, thank you. You are very interesting in your description. That's the point. It's, in my view, not an increase in good running of this council. It's good running for the joint running of the council of two councils. And little or none of this, in my view, would be required if we were still a separate, stand-alone council. As identified in paragraph 10.6 of our report, Waverley Council taxpayers are being asked to fund an additional £179,000 this year and for every year going forward, over and above the financial plan that this council approved only 3 months ago. This does not sound like good governance to me. Together with an additional £40,000 of interim support, we're being asked to approve a total increase in expenditure for this year alone of £220,000, and that's the equivalent of a 2% council tax rise. Of course, it's not going to be a 2% council tax rise, it'll be hidden in reserves. But that additional expenditure of £220,000 is £30,000 more than all of the accumulated savings that the administration claimed for their collaboration on merger savings over the last 3 years as at March of this year. And it's not conflating capital and revenue as the leader has suggested. And I have here the report which came to the overview the overview and scrutiny resources committee in March of this year. Paragraph 3.2 of our report says that this is all to respond to, and I quote, concerns raised in relation to the robustness of government arrangements for both Waverley and Guildford Borough Council. Mr. Mayor, as far as I'm concerned, the robustness concerns are those of Guildford Borough Council, and we in Waverley should not be picking up any of the additional costs from these governance concerns. Paragraph 7.3 of our report says, in support of our ongoing collaboration work, we have an extensive programme of work underway on the development of a joint constitution and approach to committee working. Well, Mr. Mayor, as far as I'm concerned, the Waverley Constitution was just fine before we entered into a collaborative merger with Guildford. And these additional costs would never have been needed but for, in my view, the wasteful and unnecessary collaboration that is being forced upon us by this administration. Paragraph 10.5 tells us that 8 new posts are to be created over and above the increases approved last December and included in the plan that we approved only 3 months ago. Why is this? Well, it says it is necessary, and I quote, due to the urgent and sensitive need to increase capability and capacity and mitigate current risk to each authority. Well, Mr. Mayor, as far as I'm concerned, almost all of those risk concerns are those of Guildford and not of Waverley. And again, the Waverley Council taxpayer is being drawn into paying for things that the Waverley Council taxpayer should not be paying for. So, Mr. Mayor, it's a rather sad day that when at this annual council that you're making, where you have today been elected as the mayor of this Waverley Council, that we should be discussing costs and expenses that, in my view, are not in the best interests of the people of Waverley. I urge members to oppose this recommendation. Thank you.
Any other speakers? Can I take Councillor Merriweather, then Councillor Clark?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It is a sad day. It is a sad day when literally minutes after you've asked us to try to avoid being political, we are treated to a political spectacle from our Conservative friends, which is based on very little fact, a lot of speculation, a lot of misinformation, a lot of mispresentation of what's going on. and some rather careless waving around of exempt material well, the paper you just held up was pink. By who?
Could we just skip forward?
Okay. Well, and as far as I know, the numbers that have been quoted by Councillor Austin do conflate one-off costs with recurring annual savings. And those savings, recurring annual savings, are on target to hit the projected numbers. I'm also concerned that we are, we're not alone in facing some pretty terrible structural problems in the labour market, which is why we have to rely on agency staff who are more expensive than regular staff. My only concern is the irony that we are apparently being criticised for trying to deal with it, as we are with the proposals that we've come forward. And as Councillor Follow says, I have not heard, I'm not talking about a better idea, I've not actually heard a single idea to compare it to from our Conservative colleagues.
Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to pick up on some words from Councillor Martin when he talks about this collaboration being forced upon us. This collaboration was voted for by this council, and this council is elected democratically by the residents of this borough. So I suggest that Councillor Martin doesn't use that kind of rhetoric in further statements.
Councillor Hyman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, there have been, in fact, Farnham Residence was founded on the issue of governance problems at this council, and similar governance problems at other councils, of course, have existed for quite some time. My issue here is not with the perhaps more political issue that has been spoken about so far, but more as to how we as members can hold the legal team, the governance department accountable at the council on behalf of residents, which is what it is our job to do. I don't think that spending more money without accountability is the answer. I will be abstaining. I don't think it's, I don't want to vote against improvements, but I will be looking to ensure that there will be accountability for our governance department and for our legal team. And I hope other members will support me in that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hyman. Any other speakers? Councillor Long.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. May I also add my congratulations on your election. As a member of the Joint Constitution Working Group, which reviews and makes recommendations on the work conducted by officers on the constitutions of Waverley Borough Council and Guildford Borough Council, I should like to take issue with Councillor Martin's comment that the Constitution of Waverley was absolutely fine and did not need work. In addition to the outcome of the work programme, which will be two closely harmonised constitutions, a significant part of the work has involved updating the constitutions, streamlining processes, and responding to issues in the constitutions which has arisen during council meetings and has subsequently been remedied. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any other speakers? Councillor Keogh, would you like to sum up before I put it to the vote?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I would also like to welcome Councillor Austin to her new role and look forward to working with her. I'm afraid the word merger rears its head again. This is not a merger by stealth. We require the right structures in place to do the job. This report clearly demonstrates the need for a joint structure. As the leader outlined, we are doing the best we can with the very limited options we have in local government at the moment to deliver the best value for our residents by working with another local authority. This is frankly not groundbreaking. I'm also glad, though, that we are aligned on needing to reduce agency staff, and I'm glad to hear the Conservative support for that. Thank you to Councillor Martin for his comments, and I would like to offer my congratulations on his tenure as Leader of the Opposition. The Waverley Constitution has benefited from the collaborative approach to its review, along with our colleagues in Guildford, and I thank Councillor Long for her comments on this and for all the work that she has personally contributed to this project. Thank you to the leader for his comments, which I wholeheartedly endorse. And I also appreciate the clarity provided by Councillor Merriweather and would echo his comments that we are trying to deal with the issue in front of us. If local government was properly funded, then we would perhaps have different options on the table. Thank you to Councillor Clark for reminding us that we all voted for this, and to Councillor Hyman, the accountability in the joint arrangements will be, of course, within our constitutional arrangements and within the inter-authority agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I will read the recommendation so that it is recorded for posterity and those watching online, and then I will put it to a show of hands unless a recorded vote is requested. The recommendation from the Executive is to improve the making of the necessary arrangements for the discharge of functions through joint arrangements between Waverley Borough Council and Guildford Borough Council by officers of Waverley Borough Council as set out in this report, and for such arrangements to be included in the inter-authority agreement in accordance with clause 113 of the Local Government Act 1972. Unless I have a call for a recorded vote, may I have a show of hands in favour of that, please? Those against? And abstentions? One. Oh, abstain, yeah, easy. Does that add up? Okay, the numbers add up, and clearly that has been passed. And I think that brings us to the end of the meeting. So I would like to invite my guests and councillors, of course, to join me in the Borough Hall for a small reception. But as of now, I declare the meeting closed.
Please rise while the Mayor leaves the chamber.